Oh, what a lad, and what a lad I have for you all today. Today's guest, he first burst onto the scene as a superstar with the New Zealand Seven side before becoming a legend in the 15-man game with the Wellington Lions and, of course, the Hurricanes. He is also a double Rugby World Cup winner with the All Blacks in 2011 and 2015. And since moving to La Rochelle in France, he has chalked over 100 games for them at a world-class level. And as you're all about to find out, he is one of the biggest lads you will ever meet. It is the great Victor Vito. Welcome, brother.
Hey, bro, man, what an intro. You do it so well for every single person I've heard on this place, so it's awesome, bro.
Mate, you're an easy one to pump up. You've done so many cool things.
Oh, cringe, yeah. Carry on, bro.
But anyway, I need to start with something current. Your testicles currently not playing because you're out with the testicle injury. Talk to me about this one.
Oh,
How did this happen?
oh, oh, man. My team, yeah, we played against Lyon, had a home game. Defensive scrum, well, they put me on at 7. I was on the open side and I let the 8 get around me too far, which I think is just the sign of the times. And then as I was wrapping up his waist as he made it to our first defender, our other defender managed to whip his leg around and kick me straight in the nuts. So I carried on till half time, played another 15 or 10 minutes or something, went off, and I knew something was up, but far out. I knew that, yeah, something was up. But it wasn't until I looked down after the game and had like the size of an orange. Well, I don't normally have nuts the size of an orange, freaking, well, the left nut
Not
anyway.
far off,
It
though.
was huge. Yeah, I ain't Beaver, but bro, it was crazy. So sore, so sensitive. It was nuts. Well, excuse the pun, but far out. It was crazy, bro. And so I'm out for 2 or 3 weeks,
Mate,
bro, and they're still sensitive today.
true. So what's the rehab for that?
Oh, honestly, they did a scan and they were like, "Oh, it looks like it's fractured," and I was like, "A fractured nut? What is that?" And they're like, "Oh, operation. When they're gonna need to sew it together or take it out." I was like, "Oh man," I was freaking the hell out, man. I was like, "Far out. What the hell does that mean? Can I still have kids?" Or
Yeah.
all the Frenchies are like, "Oh, at least you got 3 already," and I was like, "Fuck, yeah." Well, I still want to have a working nut though. But luckily, they just went to a specialist the next morning, and he said, "Look, it should be all right if it starts going down, then we can just leave it like that, and it will just take 2 or 3 weeks to start running, but no exertion or activity like that. So just chill for 2 weeks, and then we'll see how you feel." So the last week and a bit, I've just been literally sitting on my ass doing nothing.
Crazy. And was that pain,
Yeah,
when you get a little tap in the nuts and it's just excruciating pain? Was it like that, but times 100, or is there sort of a
yeah,
level where it just,
literally like that times 100. And I just felt like going for a shit the whole time. Like once it happened, I just had this little knot in my stomach, and I just felt like I needed to go for a shit. And it lasted for about
oh,
3 4 days, that feeling like, but I couldn't push through it either because it would just felt like I was going to explode or something just behind my abs. So it's wrong, but I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often, to be fair. But there I go. I guess I deserve the kick in the nuts for letting that number 8 get so far outside me.
and when you come back, how do you think it's going to be when you come back? Everything just back to normal? Just you don't have to wear any sort of pad or cricket box or anything?
Uh, Man, yeah, I don't think so. I think they're just gonna wait till they said it's just gonna work in terms of how much pain I got. So it's amazing the amount of times you actually graze your nuts on random things like your pant leg, or you're sitting down in a chair and you just take it for granted. You don't even think about it. But when they're this sore,
Yeah.
literally like every little movement is. So to think about running around a rugby field right now, like man, I've got another week at least, I reckon. So it's just gonna wait for it to go down with the pain, and then I can come back.
Mate, that's crazy. And how are the boys going at the moment over there in the comp? What's the competition like with COVID? I see a few games get cancelled, but they seem to be getting through most of them.
Yeah, they're getting through most of them. A couple of games or a few games last week got cancelled. We're coming in at fifth at the moment. Had a good home win that time against Leon. Had a game cancelled. Then we played just recently, went away, and we friggin' lost that game to Cast. So we're sitting in at fifth at the moment, but the table is literally 6 points, separating the top guys and the sixth guy. So it's not much between us at the moment.
And is COVID running rampant over there at the moment again, or is that all pretty under control now?
Uh, it was under control when they like when we got our vaccines. They just said, look, we're not once everyone gets their doses, we're not going to test anymore, and we'll just keep playing our games. But since they announced the mandates for the third, they started testing again. And yeah, look, most teams like it's rugby, like we're literally tackling and touching each other all the damn time, and cases are starting to
Yeah.
mount up, and yeah, games are getting cancelled now, and starting to look a bit ominous for the future. Like we've already had Bath, our game transferred to another date, so postponed. Sorry. So we're gonna have to play that maybe in the holiday period in February coming up. So yeah, it's all over the place at the moment because as soon as you have 5 cases, your game has to get cancelled, and some
Oh,
teams are having
really?
like 15, 16 cases each week. So
Crazy. And you're a COVID
yeah,
survivor too, aren't you? How did you find it?
mate, it was actually weird. It was just like a bad flu where I just got a bit of a fever for a day or two. And then, if anything, the worst thing about it was I lost my taste. I lost my taste. I couldn't really smell too much. And so, food and that was pretty non-enjoyable, but it was kind of good at, I guess, because I also was just able to eat some good stuff and it tasted just as good at as the bad stuff. So started being a little bit better with my diet that way. So no, it was good, man. I managed to get through it well, and Amber was okay. And it's just I'm actually kind of glad that we had it now because that fear is kind of gone. Like for the longest time, we were
Yeah.
kind of just like, man, I don't want to get it so bad. And yes, it's pretty niggly, but luckily we're young enough in our case to get it not so bad, move on, and yeah, and just carry on. But some guys have got it twice already, 3 times. Some guys in our team, so
Oh,
it's
really?
it's gonna be around for a while, yeah.
And how long did you lose your smell and taste for? Was that a long period? Or?
It's about 6 weeks, bro. So
Oh,
about five or
true.
6 weeks. Pretty long time. Pretty long time for a guy that likes his
Mm.
tucker. So man, it was a long 6 weeks, but thank God they're back now.
Thank God. And other than COVID and a swollen testicle, you've managed to have a pretty good run over there. Like you've racked up a heap of games, eh? So I remember the first few years you're over there. I don't think you missed a game for like the first 3 seasons, and they play heaps of games, obviously. So you're well over 100 games already over there. So, mate, have you found the footy?
Mate, the footy, yeah, like you say, barely missed a game in my first few seasons, and I think that's why I'm a bit of a broken ass now. Literally just paying for it now. Yeah, I played nearly 100 games in my first 3.5, 4 seasons. So yeah, it's literally they rack them up pretty quick
Crazy.
over here. And what's quite interesting is the season will change, but the atmosphere doesn't change. If you know what I mean, in terms of the team. And obviously back home we've got Super and the night or mitre team. When you go to a different team, a bit of a change in scenery, change in guys. But here it's the same team pretty much for pre-season through to mid-season and off-season for 10 months sort of thing. So it's
Mm.
yeah, it's a long grind, but that's where it is a bit of a marathon as opposed to a race like it is back home. And the rugby itself, man, it's gone so much better. Like when I first got here, it was the defense was playing up, like guys rushing in and out of lines, creating holes everywhere. It's probably why I wasn't so bad in the first year. Whereas now, as everyone has seen with French rugby, it's pretty damn good. So it's much tougher.
And we've spoken to Jason Eaton about La Rochelle a little bit. And the one thing that stood out to me was how you guys were training and just training games. You weren't doing skills or anything like that. No patterns, no game plan. It was just playing games. Is it still like that? Or give us a little bit of rundown on
Oh,
that.
there's still elements of that. We do love to play a little bit of drop off touch and all that kind of stuff still, but a lot more's changed, I guess, once guys like we've had Jonah Gibbs come through now and Ronan O'Gara. Obviously, they've got a few more ideas as to what they want to be playing like and some set pieces and whatnot.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more of that focus now. It wasn't to say even when Piggy was here, we obviously focused on our set piece because, like, honestly, set piece wins everything. Yeah, if you've got a scrum, if you've got a line out more, like, or you can got to
Mm.
win your line out ball first. But if you got those three things sussed, you're pretty much going to be guaranteed to be in the top eight, every year. So they spend a lot of time on that, and then when they actually, play phase rugby, mate, it's just we call it disorder over here. So it's just like it's a it's disorderly. The games they just kick the ball, we play, choose another ball, kick it somewhere else, and just keep playing. It's full on, especially for these old knees, but it's the way the game's going, and with some of the sequences going on pretty long.
Yeah. And how are your knees? Like you've spoken about your body being a little bit broken. Is that mainly just your knees?
Oh, it's just my right knee, bro. Yeah, I've got grade 4 arthritis on there, so it's just been a bit of a matter of time, just a matter of time. And if
Yeah.
anything, had a little surgery late last year around September, and just to get the meniscus right, and that's worked. That's worked quite well. It's just the pain now, it doesn't blow up anymore, but I've just got to manage the pain. So, if anything, it's just my pain threshold and how long that can hold out for, and I'm a bit of a wimp, so I don't know how much longer I've got.
Do you feel that when you're out playing, or is it more during the week training?
Man, it's actually, yeah, 100% during the week, I would say. During the week, it's just all the forward sessions and all our team runs and all that. I think that getting through those are way harder than getting yourself up for one 80-minute game on a Saturday.
Yeah.
You can take a few pills and strap it up and run around like He-Man, but as soon as that strapping comes off, bro, like my leg's like a noodle. So
Mm.
it's definitely the training that makes it tougher.
Mate, that gets really hard then, eh? And then you're probably not able to do extras, or you're pretty quick to get off the training field just because your knee. You want to do the right recovery because you know a good knee is probably better than what you're gonna get out staying out on the field trying to do a few more extras. Is it like that as well?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. During the week, bro, like I've started, like I never used to be someone that likes swapping in and out. Like I just love
Mm.
getting reps and just perfecting my timing with my relationships with the tens or whoever I'm working with. Never liked swapping out, but now like it's swapping out's my best friend. Like just to save the knees and do a little bit more mental homework at home on huddle or whatever. So it's definitely changed, but I mean that's just what's got to happen, I guess.
Mate, sounds all too familiar to me. And then it gets hard to know when the right time for you to stop, eh? Because is this the end of your contract this season?
Yeah, this season's the end of my contract, bro.
And then you're obviously probably going to get big offers all around the world, a superstar like yourself, to keep
Yep.
playing. And then it's whether you want to take up that money or whether you're looking to say that enough is enough. And it's a really hard decision to make, eh?
Yeah, it is a hard decision to make because, yeah, it's the only life you've known for, well, I guess for myself, professional 17, 18 years it'll be going on. So
Mm.
it's a lot of life dedicated to one thing, but at the same time, I'm quite excited to find out what's on the other side too. Rugby was always gonna end someday, and it's probably one thing where I've been quite lucky is well, my school was never good at rugby, and they always reminded me when I was younger, like, okay, well, what if you break your leg and you can't have a career? What are you going to do then? So they've always put that
Yeah.
little what if in me, and luckily I should be all right to finish up. Obviously, man, the money won't be the same, but I should have a little bit of a buffer to be able to look at other things. But rugby wise, I still feel if it wasn't for the knee, like it would be like you with your hips. Like if it wasn't for the hips, everything
Mm.
else feels good. Like my body, I still feel like I can run around. Yeah, it's just the knee that's holding me up a little bit. So it's a hard one when your ego is telling you can still go, mate. Keep going.
Yeah. And especially with the new carrot probably for you at the end of the tunnel with the Samoa eligibility rules, a Rugby World Cup just around the corner. Have you looked much into that?
Oh man, like it's first of all, I was just really happy to hear that they made the change. Like it's going to give so
Yeah.
many guys the opportunity to get back onto the international circuit and just really showcase the best the world really has to offer. Also, especially for the Tongans and Samoans. I think guys like Stephen Lautour and Charles Piutau, like all these guys are going to be able to be seen again. But for me personally, like,
Mm.
mate, yeah, there comes that ego again, man. I'm like, yeah, man, I've got heaps to offer, but I'm thinking now, 2022, we've just entered into World Cup's a good 18 months away. Man, I would have to be really looking after my knee, but also playing some really good rugby and not taking the opportunity away from someone else. Like you said before, I've won a couple of World Cups now. Luckily, I timed it well to be in those teams, and if someone else will really deserve the chance to experience that and create his own career off that, I think that's more what should happen than unless they really needed and I was playing good enough. 100%, I'll never say no, but um, yeah, it's just something that a bridge I'd have to cross at the time. But at the moment, it seems pretty far away. To be fair.
Mhm. Oh, you're a lad giving up an opportunity like that. But how do you think Samoa would go? Like, obviously last World Cup they'll probably be pretty disappointed with how they went. Whole new chance to bring back, like you say, a lot of experience, a lot of guys who have played at the highest level before. How do you think what sort of impact is that going to have on the side?
Oh, I think they still are very obviously very traditional. They love to stick to the boys from the island, but there will be some experienced guys that I'm sure they'll be looking to bring back. And obviously, Goody, like your good mates, obviously going to be looking after the team. So, mate, they've got some good coaches in there, and I know they've got the skills and some of the experience can come back from guys like Steven, as I was saying before. So, mate, there's guys like Chris Vuya as well. He's played some top level rugby as well. So it's going to be exciting to see the kind of things that they can do and bring together. There's obviously the bus as well. I would love to see him running out there.
Yeah.
But mate, I guess they've just got to they've got to choose their squad and who they're going to build it around, and then from there, that's when they can see where they can go, I guess.
Any predictions? What's the highest position Island Nation's going to finish at the World Cup?
An island nation, okay. I reckon. For me, man, one team I do love watching from the islands, I always have, is Fiji at the moment. Like
Yeah.
they're just physical freaks, man. Every single player from 1 to 35, like literally absolute specimens. And if they get their set pieces and all that kind of stuff right, I could see them quite easily being in a quarter, if not at least, if not a semi. Like they're just that good.
Mm.
So I'll put my money on Fiji going pretty far.
Nice. Like that. Heard it here first. Fiji semi-finals. We'll look back at this in a few in 18 months.
Would be great. Let's go.
But you did mention a little bit about Scots College before, so we will go back to your childhood. I know you grew up in Wellington. I know a fair bit about your childhood, but give us a bit of a rundown for our listeners about what your life was like growing up.
Yeah, born in Wellington. Went to school at Scots College. Actually, before that, I was at a little primary school in Brooklyn, a public school, and then my mum actually won a bit of a lottery actually to get me into a private school. It was like a government scholarship thing. Just put my name in a ballot and got pulled out. So I was pretty lucky there. Went to Scots, and I went there from about 8 years old all the way till end of high school. Played all my rugby through there, and yeah, it's literally lived all my life in Wellington. And we weren't that great at rugby, as I alluded to before. So we managed to get around and play a lot of schools third 15s, and even Nelson College's second 15. Like we literally couldn't touch your first 15 at all. And I think we even lost that second 15 game as well as my first 15 player. So it's not so many great memories, but it was a good time. It was a good learning curve, and we definitely were not bad by the time I left. But they've actually gone on and won since I left, so that's a couple of times actually. So that's cool. They've done pretty well now.
How did that lottery work? Like, so you weren't selected because of your athletic ability or anything like that. Was it genuinely just lucky dip?
Oh, it was literally just a scholarship for low-income families that wanted to give one of their kids a chance to go to a private school. And I think it was national government at the time. They put in two, literally in Wellington, it was like two kids can go, one boy, one girl. There must have been, I think there were like 80 or close to 100 entries. And literally my name got pulled out and I did an interview and the school said yes. So lucky, like pretty grateful to have had that opportunity and getting to rub shoulders with some people who managed to turn me on a little bit scholastically because I was pretty horrible at doing my homework. But they managed to fix that up pretty quick. Went and boarded there as well, which was pretty awesome. Like, highly recommend that for any lads going around. Like, boarding is an awesome experience.
Yeah, mate, some good words there too. You're obviously a very well-educated man.
Well, I learned how to do my homework anyway. And when you're in the boarding house, bro, like third form, well, that's what, year nine, I guess they say now, you had to do 2 hours solid homework. And you never get that much homework. You get like 20, 30 minutes, but you had to sit there for a solid 2 hours. So, like, if you were caught asleep, the dean would come and literally smack you on the back of the head. So you had to do something. So, or you just pretend to read when you see the prefect coming around. But man, it was hard yakka, but it taught some good stuff.
Yeah. Is it true you were playing soccer up until you went to Scots?
Yeah, I played football all the way through. I actually really loved playing football. It wasn't until I went to Scots that I exactly played rugby because they were like I was telling them how much I love football and I'd love to join their first 11 or just even try. And they were like, "Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. You look like you could play rugby." And I looked at my mum, and my mum was like, "Yes, he plays rugby." Like, and she hated the thought of me playing rugby. She was the whole reason I played soccer. So yeah, just like that to get the scholarship, I'm playing rugby, and obviously I'm going to have to thank them for that because it worked out not so bad in the end.
Were you any good at soccer?
I honestly, in my mind's eye, from thinking back, I felt like I was real good. But now, when I look at some real big kids running and some little kids making way for them, I think I was just bigger and none of the kids wanted me to fall on top of them, so they just made way. I thought I was good, but I got chucked in the goal a few times too, so that should be an indication.
So were you always a massive kid?
Oh, yeah, I was a bit tubbier when I was younger, so always the guy, because I was an only child, so I just
Mm.
was given all the food all the time, finish mum and dad's plate off as well, go to the cousins and they'll have some extra food for me as well. So unfortunately, put it on a little bit, but luckily my cousins, they were pretty sporty and I just sort of caught the bug off them because I was the most unco one out of the lot, just the younger one as well. So I just chased them around trying to play basketball or whatnot, kept on getting thrown out of the game because I didn't know what a double dribble was or travel and all this other stuff. But managed to learn it, and no, it's yeah. Luckily, they gave me a bit of that upbringing to play some sport.
Mm. And what was it like going to Scots College? I'd imagine you were one of a few Islanders. I wouldn't imagine was there many Islanders there?
Yeah, there was a grand total of about four of us.
Four in the whole
Yeah, there was
school.
about
True. Yeah.
four in the whole college. In the whole college, so all the way because Scots had they started primary from 5 years old all the way up to 17, and I think there were literally only four of
Oh yeah.
us. There was a young guy, Tim
Crazy.
Satu, took me under his wing and he looked after me. And yeah, it was tough, man. Like, because we obviously low income scholarship, and then all of a sudden I'm in this posh ass uniform. Kids are rolling up in Mercedes and all these nice ass cars, and the drop
Yeah.
offs and caps and the ties, mate. It was pretty daunting at first, to be fair.
Mm.
And they did this thing called cross country, which I felt was absolutely unnecessary. Mate, there's all the running, like all these house meets and the house sports, and it was awesome. But that was the one, that and swimming, that I just never looked forward to. And mate, it was definitely out of my comfort zone. But I think any growth comes from any challenge, and I definitely had to grow pretty quick over there.
Mm. Yeah, and like you say about all the rich kids, did you feel uncomfortable around that, or did you just own it being from the low income family?
Uh, I was only like 8 years old, so to be fair, I was actually quite embarrassed, like that I didn't have some of the things like I wouldn't even go to parties sometimes because like kids are having parties all the time. They're like, "Oh, I'm turning 9, you got to come." And I'd go to the the birthday I went to was one of my mates, Nigel. They went to like McDonald's or something, the classic park there. We went there, took presents, and my present must have only cost about $10, not even, which is a lot for us. And like he's
Yeah.
getting like Action Mans and all these mean ass toys, and I'm just like, oh, don't open my present. Like I think I gave him a boomerang, like a foam. I gave him a foam boomerang, like, and he was like so good though. He was like, oh no, thanks, man, this is awesome. And I could just see it, and I was like, I'm not going to any more of these birthdays. So, like, yeah, funnily enough, the kids were good enough to still invite me, even though they saw my presents. But I started like shying away from those sorts of things where I had to sort of show my wealth or my lack of, I guess. And then, like when I got dropped off home, like we had a tiny little rack shack house, and I just tell them to drop me
Yeah.
off around the corner, like, no, no, I'll just drop me off at the dairy, like it's all good. Like my mum, I've got to grab something for my mum. Full like straight out lie. I'll just be like, later, bro, later. They drop me off. Then I just walk around to where my house was because I don't want them seeing where I was. So yeah, it wasn't easy, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was an interesting experience. I've learned a lot from it though.
Mate, that's crazy. So when did the rugby start for you? Obviously, once you went there, did you pick it up straight away? Were you naturally gifted?
Um, I think Yeah, no, the first time they put me into a rugby team, obviously I would have only just been 8 or 9, and we played a rugby game. They gave me the ball. I saw a whole line of kids running at me. I actually ran backwards, and I was freaking threw the ball over my head. And so, and they were like, knock on. Like, yeah, it's quite funny. I'll never forget it. Like, and then my coach pulled me aside and he was like, man, I know you're scared. I know you play soccer. And like, I was scared. Like, I was like, what the hell's going on here? Like, I've been playing soccer my whole life and these guys want to take my head off. And so,
Yeah.
but then the first time, like the next week that I ran forward, I actually scored a try. So, and I was like, oh, like it hurt getting hit and all that, but I was like, oh, you sort of slowly learn it's not such a big game. And all of a sudden, yeah, just I don't know, I was a bit bigger as well, so yeah, I just managed to make some rep teams and got taken through by some really good players under their wings as well. And yeah, just went through the Wellington age grades, I guess, and yeah, I was lucky enough to go through with guys like Faifili, Levave, and Serge Lilo and guys like that. So yeah, it's been a pretty cool ride coming through Wellington.
And when did you think that rugby could actually be a career? When did you think this could be a thing here?
It probably wasn't until I made New Zealand 17s,
Oh yeah.
and I went to their camp in Palmerston North, and they've got like a camp up there for a week, and you know once I started seeing some of the names that I'd only really read in papers because like, our team was no good, but I'd heard of, you know, there were guys like Tama Makamaka and like Hika Elliott, all these well-known names back in the day. When I saw them in the same camp as me, and everyone was already talking about them being All Blacks one day, I was like, man, like if I'm rubbing shoulders with them, maybe I can make something out of this. And it wasn't until that camp really, but that dream got broken pretty quick when I had to do the 3K. When they do the 3K time trial, and then you know, like coming back behind some of the props, and they're like, "Mate, are you a loose forward or what?" Like pretty good speed time, pretty good this and that, and then all of a sudden the 3K, and it was just like, "Mate, you're horrible." So, oh, it was steep learning curve at each step, but yeah, never really been a long distance athlete.
You must have gone back and worked on that, worked on your fitness pretty hard, because then you did end up making the New Zealand 19s. I think you're captain of New Zealand 21s or something like that. So was fitness pretty much the only thing you were needed to work on?
Yeah, that was probably my Achilles heel for a long time, and if anything, I was just lucky when I was 16 to have gone along to a Wellington Sevens training. It was over the summer. There was not much rugby going on, so I just decided to go have a run with them. And they played a couple of tourneys as they do as they go around. Nothing official just yet, and I managed to get a bit more fitness, work off a bit of the puppy fat, and went down to Queenstown when I was 17. And it was, mate, I had a ball. I actually went to the New Zealand Sevens camp, and that broke me. Fitness wise, like I knew as soon as I made it through that camp, I was like, if I can make it through this, then like one thing that Lotte Rakabulo always used to say is like, you're not gonna die. We're always on the line, and I felt like I was gonna die, but he always reminded us, remember, boys, you're not gonna die. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I think going through Titch's camp really, literally reshaped me as a player, just because I wasn't so worried about it, ready to push the limits, I guess.
Mate, and then was that before? So you didn't make the squad that time, but a few years later, you were in the squad and absolutely ripping it up. I remember, everyone remembers the Wellington Sevens tournament where you sort of burst onto the scene, didn't you? But pre that tournament, no one really knew who Victor Vito was. After it, everyone knew who you were. So what was that whole experience like?
Mate, I think anyone that goes through the seven circuit with Titch can appreciate how hard you work. Obviously, it's hard yakka, but man, it's so much fun. Like, you're playing music in the changing room before you go out. Like, it's a pretty pure form of rugby. Like it's defensively, like there's no one to clean up your mistakes. You make one mistake, well, it's a try. Like it's gone.
Yeah.
So I love my time there, and if anything, just helped me sort of learn how to work with space and sort of trust myself as well to just go for it. I think that's one thing that Titch always taught me. I was always a little bit hesitant when I was a rugby player because I came through a school that wasn't that well known. Like I never really felt like I deserved to be in these bigger teams, like these rep teams, because it was Wellington Colleges, St. Pat's Town, Silverstream, all these guys that come through that never even heard of me because I'm playing freaking Div 3, Div 2 rugby, So I always had that little thing where I was like, oh, I'll just offload or make it for someone else. But sevens was like the first time where it was like literally you go and score the try, like you got to go do it. So I think that experience was awesome for me, not only for fitness but also just being able to back myself and go.
And you're on the wing there too, eh? So was that part of that?
Yeah, so yeah, I don't know what happened, but somewhere along the line, I picked up a little bit of pace because I was never like that quick. But I think just training with the sevens boys, and I think a lot of the time too, actually, I'd be on the outside side of the scrum. So I'd scrum because I was a loose forward and
Oh
closest to
yeah.
the sideline. And then as soon as I went out, I would just reload. Like they knew I wasn't the fittest, so they'll just keep me staying, just doing as little work as possible. And poor DJ and that are running hard out like the hooker doing all the work. So they looked after me pretty well. So yeah, the wing was awesome, bro. It was a good place to learn the game and also knowing how to read space and trying to beat guys one on one.
And what was it like post that tournament? Because obviously you did have an amazing tournament that year, and you did. People were comparing you to Jonah and all these massive claims. So what was it like for you to as a young fella to handle all that?
Mate, Jonah was one of the big guys I always looked up to, so I knew as soon as they started talking like that, I always got reminded of, you're never as good as they say, you're never as bad as they say. So I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I think I just knew that it was a bit of a bubble to make sure to keep my feet on the ground, and luckily I had good people around me, and I always had that thing around about me that yeah, just try and just keep it level because I knew I hadn't done anything yet because 15s is where I knew I wanted to go. But I just wanted to enjoy the moment of being who I am, and there could never be another Jonah. And I think he told me that actually I ran into him at a supermarket one time, and that had just happened, funnily enough. And he was just like, first thing he said to me, he was like, "Bro, just you're you, bro. You be you. Don't worry about anything else." And I was just like, "Yeah, thank God, because I could never be that. Because he's huge, bro. Like he is an absolute monster. Like so." Awesome to hear it from the horse's mouth. So yeah, I just needed to be me, and I'm glad the advice was given to me by the man himself.
Mate, how good is that? Advice from Jonah. Love that in the
Yeah,
supermarket.
Miramar, let's go.
Did you ever think about playing wing though, like in the 15-man game? Because I remember there being sort of whispers that you might look at playing wing or might be more suited to wing at 15. So did that ever cross your mind?
Yeah, it's funny. I had this conversation with Smithy Wayne Smith, and this is once I made the All Blacks as a loose forward, obviously, and I think a couple of years in, he was like, "Did you know that I actually wanted to transform you into a winger when I first saw you?" But we
Yeah.
always had me playing. I was on the bench a lot, obviously, for the All Blacks, but I'd always be covering wing. For some reason,
Oh
you'd
yeah.
pull me out and you'd be like, "Oh, Vic, during this training week, I need you to start practicing your up and unders," and I was like, "Oh, all right, sweet. I'm not holding back at 8. So is this wing?" He was like, "Yeah, yeah, just what if like it won't happen?" And then sure enough, like
Yeah.
against Canada in the World Cup, they're like, I started at the loose forward at 7, and then I finished up at wing. So it's yeah, I never seriously gave it any thought though, because I always knew I wanted to be a loose forward because I found it way more. I love the camaraderie in the forwards, and I knew I wasn't anywhere near fast enough to be a winger. So um,
Mm.
yeah, definitely glad I stayed in the forwards.
Yeah, longevity too with the knees. Tough getting
Yeah,
to top speed with dodgy knees.
no, far out.
But you'd obviously already played for the Wellington Lions before that tournament. So what was that like going from being in Wellington Lions as I think you were 19, 20, and then coming back post the sevens? Was there much of a difference there? You're obviously playing with lots of legends. I think the All Blacks were still playing in the comp those days. So and Wellington had some big names in their side.
Yeah, so when I first made the Lions in 2006, it was pretty crazy because I'm playing with legends like Thomas Waldrom, Jerry Collins, Chris Masoi, Rodney Soyalo. Like these are all like
Crazy.
All Blacks
Yeah.
and Super Rugby stars, and even Scooter Waldrom, like guys that are just legendary for me. And mate, it was probably the best, some of the best years I ever had, just learning under those guys and coming through that generation. And obviously, then Jerry moved on, and Rod, as I said, got to play with him in the Hurricanes. Then he moved on. It's just, yeah, just to have been able to play with those lads. Um, and then obviously in the Lions, and then going to sevens, coming back after with Jamie Joe, like that was probably he's the one that actually pulled me out of the sevens, and he told me I needed you because we had 2 more tournaments left in the sevens, and he asked me, look, if you want to play 15s, you've got to come back now. And I said, oh, okay, I'll do that. Had a meeting with him, sat down, and he was like, mate, how do you think you're going in the 15s game? And I was like, I think I'm right. And he was like, I think you might need to harden up. And I was like, and I was like, man, like, alrighty. I knew it though. Like I knew I was accountable enough to know. And I was like, no, I agree 100%. He goes, yep, we're going to get you into those dark places, mate. Don't you worry. And then from there, like literally some of the trainings we did around 2008, 2009, mate, it was unreal. Like, yeah, just worked so hard, worked so hard, doing so many tackles, so many more, so much rucking. Like it was, he probably was the one guy that helped me really hone my craft a little bit as a bit more of a loose forward, being able to get my head into those dark places.
Were you ever tempted to just stay with sevens, or was that never an option for you?
It was tempting more for the lads because I loved touring. I was I was young at the time. I was like 21 or something, and just flying around. We just left San Diego and Hong Kong and all that, and I think we had Scotland and London left back in those days. So it was pretty exciting. I was like, yeah, man, let's go. But I knew I always wanted to aim for the All Blacks, and I knew actually more the Hurricanes. Like the Hurricanes, I just really wanted to make that team, and the way things worked out from then as well was pretty unreal.
Yeah, and then you did make the Hurricanes. So what was it like going into that team, though? The team of your dreams, your team you always wanted to play for, finally get in there. What was it like going in there?
Oh, it was unreal. Like just like I said, having guys like Rodney around and just learning off the wisdom that they had. Like I had a problem with fitness and that, but he was probably someone that never got tired. Literally didn't even sweat. Would be doing massive fitness sessions. Even Thomas Waldron, like for a big guy, like man, he can shift and he was fit. It was a really good learning curve for me with how they worked and how they placed themselves. Even Barney loved to drop a long punt from the 22 if he just caught it at 8 or something. So it also gave me that license to just not that I ever really kicked the ball, but more just to be yourself really when you're in the team. And so I got actually injured early on. I got left behind, in Africa when they left in my first season. I went and played sevens, came back. I actually got called over to Africa because Scooter tried to rip a hook shot, I think, in indoor cricket, and then he got injured, done his rib. So I got called over and literally played the whole year from then on in 2009.
Crazy. Was that at number 8?
I started number 6, actually. Started at number 6.
Yeah. And obviously, massive Hurricanes career, ended up with 100 games exactly. What a way to finish that was. But your whole Hurricanes journey was one of the greats. And one thing that really stands out was the 2015 final when we lost to the Highlanders. That was a year where felt like we probably should have won it. We were pretty much unbeatable for most of that year, and then we get to the final and couldn't do the job. And I remember just how upset you were after that game. I remember you not coming out for a while. You were pretty home-ridden for a while there, eh? So talk to me about that whole experience leading up to that final and how you felt.
Oh, look, if anything, that final leading up to it, I think it was just more when I was thinking of how well we'd been doing. I think we just finished, from the regular season pasting. I think we beat the Highlanders in our last game. Well, they gave them a creaming at Hawke's Bay. And then we ended up playing a couple of games. I think we finished with the Brumbies as well, beat them quite convincingly as well. And heading into that final with everything that was happening during the week, with legends like Snakey and Ma'a and Franksy and Thrush, all these guys heading off, I was like, if there was a time to do it, man, it's now. And just the way the Highlanders came out, they absolutely took us by surprise, and we were never able to recover. And like you say, that game finished, they won, and I couldn't even. I was just so disappointed for the fans and just for my family and everyone because I'd expected it so bad, that we were going to win. Yeah. Literally, because of how mean we were rolling the whole year. And then literally, I just stayed home. You're right. I think I came out and did our Mad Sunday or Mad Monday and just after that, literally went home and didn't leave till like Wednesday or Thursday, I think it was, to go down the road to get a
Mm,
coffee. I just
yeah.
I just stayed home. Didn't want to see anyone because I was just so ashamed. Really, I was like, here we were, such build-ups, like freaking out, like yeah, we're gonna do it. Yeah, let's organize the party for after. Let's do this and that. The next minute, cha! Like Highlanders freaking celebrating. I'm just like, oh man. Obviously I can look back now after 216 and be happy for them, but it's almost like that had to happen for us to be able to win 2016 because man, what a way to come back and what a bunch of lads we had there next year to to learn that lesson from 15 and roll on.
Yeah. But it's interesting hearing you talk about obviously people, because when you go out in Wellington, everyone knows you. Like I've been out in town with you, or like obviously I lived with you for a bit, so we went
Here
to
we
the
go.
supermarket and stuff. Like when you're walking down the supermarket, everyone stops, or everyone knows you and says g'day to you. You are a big deal in Wellington. So like, do you feel that extra pressure when the side does win, or when the side does lose, or whether you play good or bad? Do you feel like when you're going out there, you're being judged like that?
I think like yeah, well we you take the good with the bad with rugby because we're so passionate, like our fans
Yeah,
and we love playing for the fans, we love playing for our family, and if anything, it's those big games and just knowing the history of the Canes too. We've never won one. I think that was more,
mm,
and the fact that we're able to bring a game home, and the form we had, but there's something new. They always said in the All Blacks, those big games, form means nothing. It's really just who's there on the day, and that's literally what happened to us. So you just feel disappointed for the fact that you couldn't bring one home for the fans. And like I say, I could probably still be dark at that game if we never won 2016, but I'm allowed to
yeah.
let the dead dogs lie. So yeah, 2016. Thank you very much.
Yeah, now let's talk about 2016. We'll roll straight into that one. What a year that was. Started off very slow, but got there in the end. What do you remember about that year?
Oh, that year 2016. Yeah, I just remember getting a pasting from the Brumbies in our first game. Lonnie grabbing a pig for the boys, I think the night before, and then that getting blamed for the reason we got a hiding, but I don't know if it was that. um, and we had like, oh man, like crisis meeting from way back for that game, and then obviously went through. And I think when we decided to change our D, I think that was
Mm,
probably one of the master strokes of what happened that year. Just us coming up a bit more on the blitz. I think it caught a lot of teams unawares, and then by the time they kind of cottoned on, it was a bit too late, and we kind of transformed our identity really. Like
yeah,
Hurricanes always being a team of attack and expect the unexpected, and yet all of a sudden we were this defensive unit that were just swarming and forcing teams back at every stride. So that's and then obviously we won the final, but I think that defensive masterstroke was probably something that I'll never forget, and how we managed to change in the middle of the year and win it that way.
And there's another moment that sort of changed it all around too. It was a incident of the famous five guys who went out, had a big night in Africa when they weren't allowed to.
Funny how I
I
forgot
don't
that
think we
moment. Oh no, I remember it
I don't think we lost the game after that, and some say you give yourself credit for that.
now. Oh look, I'm always going to look for the bright side of things. It was one of those. It was funny because we're in Durban, and we had an early dinner that night. I think it was a Tuesday night, early
Yeah.
dinner, and I think we were pretty much done by 6 o'clock. And I knew it was going to be my last season, and I was like,
Mm.
what I'd never done, because I love a punt. Like I'd probably normally go to the casa and just sit there for a few hours and friggin' play blackjack or play some poker. That's normally what I like to do. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to change it up. I'm just going to go and have a drink, have a quiet drink by myself, and just reminisce, and then head back to the hotel because we had a curfew, obviously. And 6 o'clock,
Yeah.
like that's early doors, right? Anyway, one quiet drink. They decided to, oh mate, your last year, we've got to make the most of this. Like, we've got to make the most of this. Let's just come together and we'll just have one drink and we'll head home. I was like, bro, 6 o'clock, of course, mate. I can't remember who ordered the shots, but once the shots came in, like, can't really remember much after that. And then, mate, I think, well, we got home after curfew, 100% after curfew. I got to my room. My roomie, I thought, was out, but I must have been making a hell of a noise. Freaking, I think I must have spewed into the bloody toilet bowl or something. Fucking went for a piss, fell over, like I was in all sorts. And anyway, I woke up the next day. I was in bed, day off. Next minute, my roomie comes back after having a day out, and then he comes back and we're just lying there just talking, and then I'm like, Reg, did you hear me come in last night? He's like, bro, I thought you'd never ask. And I was like, thought I'd gotten away with it, and then yeah, the rest is history. But look, like, it's so funny because like I was one of the names. I'd never do anything like that. Like I never honestly back in my
Nah.
days, I'd always like be the first guy to bed, never drink, and then I just thought, you know what? Like I've been like that for so long. I'm just gonna enjoy myself. But ended up having four other mates. So yeah, it was. And then from then on, obviously we got dropped. The boys, we had a game. We literally won from then on, and that's why I like to say I just created a little bit more tightness between the brothers. You know.
Yeah. The fact that we got pumped by the Sharks too, like that probably made it so much more worse. I reckon if we won
Oh,
that game, you probably wouldn't have been dropped.
yeah, exactly, exactly, bro. If we had won that game, but obviously Sharks, I don't think we'd. Have we won there yet?
Good question.
I,
Not sure.
yeah, I don't think we have. Like even up till then, we had a one there, and obviously we actually trained really well. That's the crazy thing. We trained well on Thursday, trained well on Friday, and then
Yeah.
Saturday, like just literally absolutely nothing. Like, oh mate, they spanked us, and so
Mm.
deservedly so, we got dropped, and I guess the rest is history, and we just won eight on the trot. I think it was.
And then what was it like once that final whistle had gone, 2016 final? You obviously get your tongue going for some reason. Any story behind that one? What's
I
that all about?
honestly, yes, bro. Literally, it just happened in the moment. I think it happened the week before too. Like, I think it was almost like I was trying to say, I told you, but for some reason, I just started bringing the tongue out. I don't know what the hell. And I just remembered it for the next week because someone, I think Bears hit me up the week before, like just before the final. He's like, what was that about? I was like, I don't know, but if I'm doing it again, mate, we'll be happy boys. And so I just knew as soon as that whistle went, I had to do it again. So even though it meant absolutely nothing, it was just like my celebration after scoring in Wellington in the sevens. Like I never celebrate, so for some reason I just did the cross and put my hands up, and I've not a winger's celebration by by any means.
Oh, good times at the Hurricanes. But one thing we haven't even mentioned about yet is your All Black career. So, when was your debut for the All Blacks?
It was in the June series in 2010 against Ireland. Um, so that was up in New Plymouth, and we played them. We beat them in all three games, and I got a run. I was on the bench against the Irish. Came on in the second half with about 20 to go. Played against
Mm.
Ronan O'Gara actually as well, my now
Oh,
coach.
did
So
you? Oh, true.
yeah, so that's quite funny. Some of the boys have a bit of a laugh at our old I'm when the coach has pictures of me playing with them too. So, but yeah, no, that was my debut.
What was it like being named for the first time as well? That's always a moment that everyone loves.
Oh, mate, it was absolute heaven on earth, mate. Like I absolutely dreamed of that moment right from the get go. And then it's funny though, because like Ma, I'd hung around with him. Obviously, Ma was one of my boys in the Canes, and he'd always be dropping hints. Like he's like, "Bro, I reckon you'll be there." Eh? And I was like, "Don't like." There was I'd never talked to the coaches. There'd been nothing, like no comms. Like, but like for
Yeah.
most of the years, like, no, 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 I reckon you'll be sweet. But like, you can't think and go down that track because otherwise, all of a sudden you're playing like an egg. And
Yeah.
anyway, and so when it finally happened, I was sitting at home. Actually, Amber was there too. Literally met her 2 weeks before in the club, and then she was and she was at the house with my family, and we were in the back in the kitchen because like the naming was happening in the lounge where everyone was by the TV, and
Yeah.
they were all watching, and all of a sudden, like, just heard this massive scream. Like I didn't even watch it because I was just so nervous. I wanted to make it so bad, and then when I heard that scream, I knew I could finally join them. And then, yeah, I freaking got a call from Shandy, and they told me the rest, the details, what's packed, and all that sort of thing. So,
Mm.
man, it was a bit of a blur, really. And then media not long after, like it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I think everyone talks about their first selection and what happens, and it's definitely a moment you never forget.
Did you feel comfortable going in there?
Nah, not at all,
No.
really.
No.
I was really just looking forward to finding my Wellington mates like Conrad and Mata, and just really trying to get alongside those guys, because those are
Yeah.
the guys I know. We've got Perry as well, and there's on Net Mia. Um, just oh yeah, I knew I'd be comfortable around them, but even then, like the All Blacks, so much history and all that. Man, I was nervous, and my first ever roommate was Richie, and so
Oh, yeah.
like they always bloody do that. I figured that out later, but they always did it, and unfortunately, my plane came in before his. And so what I did was I got to the room and I saw there were no bags, and I knew I was with him, and I was like, I can't choose a bed here. So I literally put my crap to the side, like the concierge brought it up, and I went down for half an hour in the team room, and I just sat there. And then Richie walked in, and he was like, "Oh mate, concierge has got your bags upstairs." And I was like, "Oh yeah, sweet as." I went upstairs, and then I'd seen that he chose the room closest to the doors. I was like, "Oh yeah, sweet, I'll go to the other one." So mate, so nervous, bro. Like I'm nervous talking about it now. Still, like it's crazy what your body does, man. I was like, oh yeah, pretty nervous, but yeah, can get up.
And the rugby side of things, what was the biggest difference for you going into the All Blacks from a rugby point of view?
I think the attention to detail was probably the biggest thing. Attention to detail and how long you had to concentrate for in meetings, and just really, just kind of the Socratic method too, with the way they worked, like in terms of asking questions to anyone. Like I used to
Yeah.
normally in the Hurricanes, like it's kind of your leaders that talk a lot more, and every now and then they might ask a young guy, but we've got games every week, so we kind of just roll into it. But with the All Blacks, like every test is big, everyone's got to contribute, everyone's a leader on the day. So I figured out pretty quick though that you can't really look away too much, because that's when they'll come for you. It's more like when they're looking for someone, like you just like look like ask me, but really it's like don't ask me. I think that was the biggest thing, was just being able to just to learn off the greats and have those guys around, and you just didn't want to be the guy that asked a dumb question, or like put a foot wrong in
Mm.
training. But being a young guy, that's always going to happen at some point. So yeah, it was daunting, but it definitely got easier with some of the lads that were there.
And your debut start, was that against Aussie?
Debut start, yes, it was against Aussie.
Yeah. What do you remember about that game?
Oh, that game! What a game! I remember starting on the blind side, and I remember we had a defensive scrum again. Here's my bane, the defensive scrum. And then I think Ben Mickelman, he was at eight, and he picked the ball, but in the Hurricanes, because I was fast enough a couple of times at flank, I would go straight to the winger, and
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
because I could cover it, but that was just absolute noob. And I was just like, I left them completely, and I went to the winger. Me and Izzy were in the middle of comms, and then he was like crouch set, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to get to the winger because he's the hardest guy. Literally, I just drifted off the eight. Obviously, he went through, made an offload, and they scored a try to get ahead. We ended up winning that game, but after that, it was obviously the last game of the series, and then we had end of year announced, and I missed out on that team literally because all the other games have been good, literally because of that one tackle that I'd missed.
Mm.
And so, yeah, that was a pretty quick. Made it in 2010, end of 2010. I hadn't even made the end of year tour. I don't think anyone's had a quicker exit. So, and the hardest thing was, those are the tough tests. The June series, and then playing the Springboks and the Aussies, and then the fun one is the one when you get to go to the end of year, and I didn't get to go on it. So,
Yeah.
made learnt the harshness of the Kiwi critics pretty quickly. And if anything, that's when Amber and I, obviously, we just decided to go on a bit of a tiki tour. So we went to the States, and just did a massive trip through there for about 3 or 4 weeks, and then came back just to have a bit of an unwind.
And what's it like going in and then back out? Because everyone's obviously so happy that you're an All Black. They're calling you an All Black, and then you're back out of there straight away. And what's that like to deal with?
Oh man, it's the first time's definitely the worst. Like as they say, the first cut's the deepest, and I think it was just because of all the build up of actually making it, and then just knowing it was
Yeah.
just literally one mistake, and we obviously won the game, but I hadn't earned my stripes enough yet to be making those sorts of mistakes, and I understood because I knew how cutthroat it was, I knew how hard it was to get there. Looking back, it's a little bit harsh, but at the same time, we had so many talented guys like Adam Thompson, Liam Messam. Like, you don't. It's All Black rugby. You don't make that sorts of mistakes and get away with it. So I
Mm.
think, and Jerome obviously didn't start that game just to give me a go. And so there's, legends that you're keeping off. If you're not going to be adding to the legacy, it's probably time you go figure out how to do it another time. So it's tough, man. Obviously people come around your family, like people kind of like, oh, like they don't know what to say, and you're kind of like,
Yeah.
just it's all right, just talk to me. I haven't died. Like life goes
Yeah.
on. But
Yeah.
for a lot of people, it kind of feels like that. So the first time was hardest, and then even the second time I got dropped. Like that's the funny thing about my All Blacks journey. Literally, double World Cup winner. Like I was lucky enough to be around for those times, but like literally got dropped a couple of times, and then out with injury. So it's almost like I was out of the team a few times, but always seemed to be coming back in. So I've been pretty lucky for that journey. I guess that kind of helped keep my feet on the ground too. To be fair.
And you spoke about the Rugby World Cup leading up to that 2011 Rugby World Cup. Did you think you were going to make that squad?
Hell to the no. So yeah, 2011. I was just playing Mitre 10 Cup, and we had our shortened version, like midweek games, because obviously the competition had
Yeah.
to get done before the World Cup at home. And then played a relatively decent game one time against Canterbury at home. I scored a try and set up a couple of others, and then the All Blacks just happened to be in Wellington that week. And I managed to catch them while they were training at rugby league, and I was just talking to some of the coaches, and they said you're playing good rugby, but like it literally was just a conversation in passing. And then I think we went away to play Bay of Plenty. That we won that game. Then they called me to come away with them to Port Elizabeth for one of their last tests before they named the team. And like I hadn't played with the team the whole year, missed out into 2010, hadn't played at all in 2011. Um, and so they asked me to come away because they wanted to rest guys like Richie and Kieran, I think, as well. And so I think they gave a start to like Tomo, Liam, and then other guys, and then myself. Like, I was going to be on the bench just to sort of give those guys a rest. And I was like, well, okay, that makes sense. You got to look after these guys. We've got a frigging big World Cup coming up. And then, yeah, anyway, went away to PE. Liam started. He came off. I went on. Did nothing special, but we lost that game. Um, and then they read out the team that next morning. I was telling Amber that morning, like, can't wait to come home, can't wait to see you. And then they read out the team, and they didn't read out Liam, and they didn't read out a few other guys, but they read out me. And mate, I just didn't believe it, man. It was like, couldn't believe it. Like they didn't have any combos, no nothing. Literally, I came in as a gap filler, like literally best of the rest to come help out. But mate, yeah, literally happened just like that. And then they talked to me on the way. But then we had one more game actually. Sorry, go through Brisbane. We had to go back home through Brisbane to play the Aussies. And then Kieran actually got injured in the first 10 minutes. I think he did. And then yeah, I came on, and I'll never forget. Brad Thorne was like, "This is now where you make your mark, mate. Play tough." So this big Thorny, mate, he's friggin' legend. And then
Yeah.
they just gave me the confidence I needed, and we ended up, I think we won that game in the end with Richie scoring try. But yeah, anyway, like, oh no, sorry, we lost that game. So we lost two on the trot heading into a World Cup. But personally, I had a pretty good game. And so it just gave me a bit more confidence to know that maybe I did belong to try help the boys get a World Cup on home soil.
Wow, that's crazy to hear. And so what was it like leading into that World Cup? Obviously, the whole weight of the nation was on the All Blacks. Everyone had high expectations. Everyone was right. The country got right in behind that one, eh? So what was that like playing in that tournament?
Mate, I think the pool rounds were awesome. Like it was just so nice being at home, being close to all your family, having everyone so close to be able to visit and have midweek lunches. Doing things you'd never be able to do. Normal tests when you're traveling and back and forth. But then obviously come quarters and semis and finals. I think yeah, obviously the anxiety started kicking in for the nation, and all of a sudden you couldn't be having a coffee down in the lobby at 7:30 at night. Everyone's
Yeah.
thinking you should be upstairs getting some rest and all that kind of thing. So the pressure was definitely getting transferred onto the boys. So we kind of had to just hold up a little bit and stay in our rooms and you know do the right do the right things in the eyes of the public, because that's probably one thing about being at home is you can't be out doing movies and stuff because everyone's got an opinion as to what a professional should be doing. So
Yeah.
luckily the weight of a nation literally was able to be alleviated once we won after that final whistle against the French. But holy heck, there was a lot of pressure.
So how did the 2015 World Cup compare? Was it a similar situation? Did you think you were going to make it this year? Because like I've already mentioned, you were in and out of the squad quite a bit.
2015. Yeah, that was yeah, like I got injured with my neck in 2014, and
That's
so
right.
I'd been out for quite a while, and I got injured in Super Rugby, and so I didn't manage to get away to play any of that June series with the All Blacks. In fact, I played one game,
Mm.
but then I had to take some time out because of my neck injury, and I just thought, well, I hadn't played any rugby, didn't even get to play Mitre 10, and then I ended up playing a couple of Mitre 10 games, and luckily got the call up for the end of year, but hadn't done anything special. There were still guys like Stephen Luatua, he had an amazing season. Paddy Tupolotu came in, and obviously the
Mm.
split with Locks and Lucy's, all those things come into play, and again, mate, I just got lucky. 2015, I think Stephen Luatua was out with an injury. Paddy Tupolotu needed to have surgery. And then I played a game in Eden Park, literally the last game before the All Blacks team got announced. And I started and I played really, really well. And so I just put my hand up again, and we ended up taking 6 Lucy's in the end to the World Cup. I think kind of forced my way in there. So and we only took 3 locks. So it was, mate, again, just lucky to be around when because I know if Paddy Toops was available, it probably would have been just easier to take 5 and 3. Well, sorry,
Mm.
take 4 locks, which you normally would. So,
Mm.
mate, I just lucky again, really.
And how did that tournament compare, footy wise?
Oh, I think yeah, there was so much less pressure for some reason. Like, yes, the pressure was there because it won the year before, but we were away from home. We actually enjoyed being in enemy territory, if anything,
Mm.
and we knew with the experience of having 2011 that monkey was off the back, and if anything, it was just a nice warm wind at our back to help us experience wise. A lot of those guys are still there, obviously with Richie, Dan, Ma, all these greats, and that team had a bunch of guys that just knew how to win, and the rest of us young guys, obviously, that are there just helping it along. But those guys were
Mm.
pretty much able to coach the team themselves in the last couple of weeks because of just all the experience they had from 2011 and obviously between. Mate, it
Mm.
was unreal. It was unreal that we just didn't feel like we were going to lose. To be fair, in a lot of those games, the only game was probably against South Africa. Was where it was quite tight in the semi final, but otherwise,
Yeah.
it just felt almost destined, really. But especially for those guys that finished up their careers in that year.
Mm. And what are the celebrations like? What's the celebration like after Rugby World Cup? You've obviously experienced two of them, so.
Oh, 2011 was pretty special because obviously our friends and family all around, and mate, I actually probably can't remember much after 5 a.m. To be fair, I had to get dragged into the bus for the parade because I heard the chanting outside our room. Like everyone, like the streets were absolutely packed. Obviously, everyone half cut out trying to get the All Blacks out of their bed. So it was friggin'
Yeah.
mate, it was awesome. And then obviously in London, we celebrated going into town. Had a Redley night on the town. Had a few photos pop up of the boys by the paparazzi over there, friggin' coming out a bit worse for wear in the middle of London. But mate, it was good times. It was good times, and yeah, just ended up having a good flight home as well. Obviously drinking the whole way, so mate, it was pretty good to have little Billy come back with us. Obviously, the World Cup, it was mean.
Mate, two-time Rugby World Cup winner. How good is it?
Oh, so lucky, bro. It's been awesome. Lucky to have played with some awesome players, bro. Just there to do my part, I guess.
Mm. But one thing that has stood out about your All Black career that we've sort of spoken about is your sort of inability to cement yourself as a first choice All Black. I mean, you've got all the attributes, you're big, fast, strong, got all the skills. What do you reckon held you back from, like being a 100 cap All Black?
Um, it's funny you ask. Like, yeah, it's probably one thing that Steve Hansen always said to me. Like, he'd always ask a question, I'd say something. He's like, mate, just don't overthink it, Vic. Don't overthink it. And I think I've
Mm.
always been someone that was a bit of an overthinker. Like, probably because, like I said, I came through Scots. I broke this all down, obviously, in my years after I've left. But after I left, when I was at Scots, like we had no real game plans. We didn't have set piece stuff. We didn't do any rugby theory. Like there was no, literally, it was give a couple of us the ball, and I was one of them, and we just play. Like there was no,
Mm.
and then by the time I made like rugby squads that had proper like IDs and misses and all this other stuff and rap moves, I was like, literally, it was just above me. It was like algebra, bro. It was like
Mm.
absolute hieroglyphics trying to read it for me. And so a lot of the time, I'd be always trying to do more homework, or always trying to think that I was way behind the ball, like the 8 ball, and that I wasn't quite ready. So I'd always be overthinking things. And so, if anything, that was my biggest challenge, was just trusting myself, just trusting myself that I know my roles, I know what I'm doing, just go. And part of that's also to do with my school, like I said, like I'm always thinking about what if, like I've always got preparation scenarios instead of just freaking staying in the moment. So there was a battle that I always had, and I timed it well enough to have a decent resume. But like you say, I'd love to have been a little bit more in the moment and just trusted myself back in those days. But there's no regrets. It's just interesting to have thought back to it.
Yeah. If you could go back, how would you do that differently?
Uh, I probably, yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like it couldn't have happened any other way, to be honest. Like just because I became quite studious, studying the game and trying to know different roles, and obviously I was on the bench as well for the All Blacks a lot, and I always had to know 6, 7, and 8, and the roles were
Right.
pretty different. And we didn't want to shift anyone around when they came in. Like we wanted our jumpers, like all the guys, for them to do their role the best. I needed to know every single role really, really well, and I think definitely played in my mind a little bit, because it was like if I
Yeah.
was doing Richie's role, I'll be following the rucks a lot. If I was doing Lom's role, I'll probably be hanging out a little bit more, but obviously a little bit more ball carrying. If I was doing Rito's role, I'll be swinging in
Mm.
and out of the off the 10 every now and then. Like it was quite a lot for me to take in as a sub, but I relished that challenge too. It probably clammed me up a little bit, but I love that part of it too, because yeah, I would have loved to have strung more starts together. To be fair, like if I was able to get more
Mm.
starts, I probably in one role that would have been awesome. But mate, when you get a first start and you make a bad read or an 8, like you're not going to get trusted very often. So hopefully, and you've got guys like Kieran and Richie and Jerome. Like I was never ever unaware of the fact that you got some pretty great players ahead of you.
Mm. Mate, so interesting to hear. Was there anyone who sort of helped you sort of go through that journey of your decluttering? Are you still like that? Are you still overthinking the game a little bit, or what
Oh,
sort of helped you through this?
I think if anything, it's just time. Like by the time, funnily enough, by the time I left the Canes, well, by the time I hit 2015 and by the time I hit 2016 and left, I was in a great zone. Like I
Mm.
knew myself, I knew what I could do, I knew what I wasn't good at and what I needed to work on, but not focus on it so much. I think my All Black journey, I always wanted to be. They wanted me to defend like Jerry or Loms, and they wanted me to run like this and that, but I could only ever be me, and I lost sight of that. And so yeah, like getting reshaped and remolded a lot of the time. I think I just lost my way a little bit, but now, like mate, as age, you know what it's like as you get older. You just sort of know
Mm.
yourself, and mate, I think by the time I got here to France, I was just ready to pop. Like, and I had an awesome season here in France. Like, it was great too. They had not too many roles, just play and offload and see how it goes,
Yeah.
and that's all I did, and I loved it. It was awesome.
Mm. So what did inspire that move to France? You just won the Super Rugby, you just played 100 games, you were still an All Black. Why the move?
Um, I just felt like it was time for a new challenge. I mean, I think as soon as we'd won 2015 as well, I just knew it was time to move on. We had
Mm.
so many legends leave the game, guys that I played a lot of my rugby with, obviously as well. And so I thought
Mm.
maybe it's time for a new challenge as well. And yeah, it just seemed like the right time. And I think, yeah, it ended up being perfect with the 100 games and winning the final. It couldn't have been a better send off, really. I think it was just great timing. I've always been very lucky in that way, I guess.
Was it always La Rochelle? I imagine someone of your caliber would have had plenty of different offers on the table to decide between.
There was one other. There was Ulster. I could have gone to Ulster, but that was when people would describe Ulster to me as being like cold and freezing and wet, I was like, oh hell no! Like definitely going to need to go somewhere with a bit of sunshine. And then obviously La Rochelle was the other option, that seaside town. I just thought, man, that's just like Welly, and so just in France. And so mate, it was, yeah, I thought it was just the right time to go. And obviously, Piggy was here. He told me, mate, it's great people, great team. And I watched some of their highlights, and there's this guy, Lavani Butti. I was like, mate, I think these guys have got some good boys, eh? And then, honestly, got here, and the lads were on a roll by the time I got here, and I was just, man, again, timing along for the ride, and man, I loved every second of it.
And how did the family find the move?
Oh, family found it tough, to be fair. The
Yeah.
first 6 months is definitely tough, as you know, the language barrier, and there's so much paperwork over here. There's
Mm.
so much bureaucracy to get through. Like, just to set up a bank account or even just buy a mobile phone, you got to like give
Yeah.
8 different forms of ID, and you're like, hey, no, well, not that many, but like it's crazy. Honestly, it's crazy over here, and it's one thing you just learn about France, and you get over it after 6 months, and it took us a couple of years to be really comfortable without being able to go find good cafes and live life like it was back home.
And one thing that looks like you've picked up really well is your French. I see you doing fluent interviews in French these days. So, mate, you're a wizard.
Mate, you'd hope so after 5, nearly 6 years. But yeah, look, I think the first year that I had here was probably the catalyst to that. Our team wasn't expected to do much, and then all of a sudden we're winning back-to-back games, and the boys are going out on the town every week, and nothing takes out that overthinking more than a beer. So all of a sudden the language was just getting chucked out there and just going back and forth, and mate, I was just fully immersed in it, and
Yeah.
that was the best way to learn. Luckily, it was all pre-COVID, obviously, so yeah, it was a good
Mm.
way to go.
And three beautiful kids. How are they going with their French and lifestyle over there?
Yep, got Carlos who just turned 7, Cruz who's 5, and then Talia who's 2, turning 3. Yeah, they had their challenges. Like Carlos, he could tell that we weren't in New Zealand anymore for when we first got here at nearly 2 years old, and he took a while getting used to the Nunu and the language. He's just they would be talking to him, and he's just like, nah, just like bust out crying, like wasn't happy one bit.
Yeah.
But he got used to it. Cruz was born here, and so he's just recently started liking speaking French. He's just so stubborn, like because we speak Samoan at home as well. So three languages is
Yeah.
a little bit much on the kids, I guess. But they're starting to come around. And Talia, she's the little girl that just runs around just confident as because she knows he's got two older brothers around her. So she's a laugh, man.
So you're fluent in Samoan, French, and obviously English.
English isn't so bad, but yeah, um, the French and Samoan, yeah, I think, yeah, luckily enough, three languages. Don't speak anywhere near enough Samoan at the moment. It's only really when I see my mum or on FaceTime and that. So yeah, I'd love to once I get back to get crack into that a bit more too. But I'd love to keep my French as well. It's been pretty cool having that.
Can Amber speak French?
Uh, not as well as she should. Not as well as she should. To be fair to her, though, like she's been living at home, being living the life of a stay-at-home mum, and she doesn't really. And obviously, COVID's like rocked our world. Like we can't go out as much and socialize. So,
Mhm.
you know, her conversations, unfortunately, are just with me and a few other foreign wives, and doesn't get to go out often and see other Frenchies. So, she can understand a lot though, but she just needs to
Yeah.
back herself a bit more. Just that, probably she's a bit of an overthinker like me too. I think.
And we've sort of spoken about your plans, like your body's sore, but you're coming to the end of your contract. Have you made much of a plan? Do you know what's ahead for you?
Um, oh mate, it's a hard one at the moment. I mean, it's all I've got a bit of a rest now because of the ballies, so my knee feels not so bad. So I'm telling myself, look, I'm just gonna wait it out and see how I go because the mind's willing, the mind's ready to go again, and obviously I think La Rochelle we can make a real good go of it this year again because we made literally two finals last year and missed out. So I'm hoping that record runs like the way it was for us in the Hurricanes and we can win one this year. But yeah, I'm just looking at the knee and how that's going, and then I'll be able to make some more decisions. But whether I finish up or not sure, mate. It's I'm ready. I'm ready to finish up, but also if this knee's good, who knows? Might sign on for one more.
So, what is the plan when you finish up? I know you're someone who's put a lot of time and effort into your life after rugby plan, and you're someone who's obviously going to be very successful once you do finish. What is the plans?
Oh, mate, if I choose to finish up, I think if anything, like you say, luckily I've got a bit of I've been able to get a couple of properties that can provide a little bit of income there, and
Half of Wellington.
shit, no. It's going to be able to put food on the table and whatnot, so we won't be pressured that much. But I know we're going to still want to put our minds in and hearts into something,
Yeah.
maybe a business or something. But I don't know. I've just got to go back and sample some stuff because I literally don't know, mate. Like I've
Mm.
been doing this job for 17 odd years. I think I'm just going to go and have to try and fail a few different things, and then I'll know what I don't like and
Mm.
just pick it up on the way, like everyone else, I guess. It's funny. Like a lot of people think you got to have it figured out. And then I talked to some guys, even like Conrad a couple of years ago. I asked him, he was like, "Mate, I don't really know." I'm like, "Mate, Conrad Smith, are you sure?" I mean, like, he always had a law degree and he's pretty switched on, but it doesn't necessarily mean he'd wanted to be a lawyer per se. So, mate, it's a question that's always tough. But recently I started speaking to a therapist. Actually, just we had a bit of a service through the Canes, the Canes old boys network,
Yeah.
and we used a lady from there, and she wasn't so bad, but wasn't quite aligned with how I wanted to do things. And then I met another lady who got recommended to me by a good mate who'd used her as well. And if anything, it was just to sort of dig into some stuff as to find some blind spots, I guess, as to where
Mm.
because I'm confident in who I think I am or who I know I am, but it's always good to, we talked about overthinking before, but I'm sure there's other friggin' things I've got about me that I need to be aware of if I'm really going to be okay once this game finishes up.
Mate, that's so cool. So did you just think, what made you think that you needed to go see a therapist or someone? Was something happening, or you just genuinely just interested to find out more about yourself?
I was just generally interested because there's quotes around like you're probably the easiest person to fool, yourself. And
Yeah.
so I just thought, man, like I feel like I'm all right, but I just would love to hear the perspective of someone that's trained and able to sort of give you an insight into some of your habits and what you've done and who you are and why you do certain things. Um, and man, it was worth it. I've only done a couple of sessions now, but the first one's just a real casual conversation, getting to know each other. But then after that, like you could dig in and go through some history and stuff that's happened to you in the past, and it wasn't anything per se, but it was just real.
Yeah.
I could see like life is gonna change, and I knew that, and there's gonna be challenges ahead, and I just wanted to make sure I knew a little bit more about myself before I took myself out of the safety that is rugby. Really.
Mm. No, that's so cool because you often hear when you think about a therapist or a counselor, you often think people are struggling or they're going through something tough. But you've been proactive with that, and you've reached out early, and you've had to think about what your personality's like, and I guess bulletproofing yourself for what's about to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm luckily, I've got a good mate who had used this person before, and he's in the States, and over in America, like everyone's got a therapist. Like I think it's just
Yeah.
over in back home in New Zealand and maybe Aussie, but like that it's seen as like a bottom of the cliff sort of thing, like you say. Just
Yeah.
waiting
Yeah.
for something to
Exactly.
go wrong in your life before you hit them up. But literally nothing's going wrong in people's lives in America, in the States, and they just go see them just to unload and talk about what's going on, and even the good things. They like to share that. And
Mm.
I thought, when he told me that, I was like, man, wow, that's actually a really good way to look at it. So,
Mm.
and I was supporting him the whole time, going, man, you got to do it, man, you got to do it. And then he was like, well, what about you? And I was like, oh, bro, I'm all good, eh? And he was like, hey, 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 you just told me that it's all good and you don't want to. I was like, all right, you know what? Okay, you're right. And so, yeah, I
Yeah.
just ended up putting in an email to the Canes and then obviously to this other lady, and man, I loved it. So I'm going to be setting up another session soon just to have another chat because it could be done in 6 months, and yeah, a lot of things
Mm.
change for me, my family, and what that looks like. Obviously, it's my own perspective that's going to have to shift with everything.
Mm. Well, so cool. And what options have you got? I know you're a talented actor. You're into politics. You've got so many
Uh,
options. You're a good dancer. What are you thinking
Hey,
life after?
that's up. um, Oh, mate, in terms of options, oh, look, honestly, I'm not even. If anything, my main goal is to get. If I do finish up, is to get home and set up the kids,
Yeah.
and then just see where it goes from there. Take it day by day. I really love my last time back home. I was home for about a month and caught up with a few friends, and it looked like, mate, it just went by so quickly, and they were all doing such awesome things and like running their own businesses and doing things. And oh, mate, I just being able to be amongst that and get inspired, I think naturally I just want to learn, again, and I think that's what is quite exciting about the other side of footy. Like I haven't learned everything in footy by any stretch of the imagination, but there's always going to be a transition coming at some point, and I think there was one game actually where I took a head knock and I was a bit slow for about 10 days to 2 weeks. And mate, I just was like, man, the last thing I want to do is freaking lose my marbles and not be able to actually use my brain and do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of living to be done after footy, So I think that's what kind of prompted some of these proactive moves, I guess. And yeah, I think that's. I'll just go home and chill, get the kids right, because obviously I've got my family to think about, and then Amber and I will go from there, because she's been living her life here this whole time, being a mother, and I'm excited to see what she wants to do as well. So that's all in the next step.
Yeah, and she's a very driven and intelligent person as well, isn't she? So I'm sure she's got some pretty big goals that she wants to achieve as well.
Yeah, she's got some good little ideas, and man, I'm like pretty quick to try and steal them. I'm like, yep, I reckon we should do this, and then she's like, whoa, this is my idea. So I'm like, all right, but I'll be helping you a little bit. She's like, yeah, but get your own. I'm like, gosh, yeah, man.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. No doubt whatever you choose, you two will be very, very successful. Anyway, as always, we've gone to our Instagram for some questions, and Victor Vito, the Samoan All Black legend, has got so many questions come in, and a lot of them actually were about what we've already talked about, was the Samoan switch. Would you be keen to make that change, which you obviously already have spoken about? But first question, who is your favourite young player currently?
Who's my favorite young player currently? I quite like Caleb Clark. I just love watching the way he runs a bit like his old man and his massive ass thighs going so fast. And the way he just backs himself. I think
Yeah.
I always love that. He came into the environment, and then pretty soon after he was ripping it up. And I always love seeing young guys rip it up like that straight off the bat. So yeah, Caleb Clark.
Mate, he's a little bit like you if you chose to play wing.
Shut up. Hell of a lot more explosive than me, bro. He friggin' doesn't go down for anyone, that guy.
Okay, next one. Do you still have your Michael Jackson CD?
Who the hell was that? Mate, I love me some MJ. Not in CD, but I've definitely got a lot of MJ on my Spotify playlist now.
Are you a big Michael fan? Dancing,
Oh,
singing?
mate, love little MJ. It's he's a bit of a legend, isn't he? I mean, bloody hell, he's everything for me when I was young, and yeah, I always wanted to go to one of his concerts, but unfortunately, I wasn't old enough to go. So, yeah, it is what it is.
Okay, next one. I'd love to know what he thinks of Ronan O'Gara as a coach.
Oh, Ronan, mate. Nah, Ronan's a good coach. He's pretty approachable. He's pretty good in that way, and that he's actually quite open to having a yak about how you might want to see the team rolling as a player, and then working it into the game plans and that. But then also he's big picture thinker. He gets the boys motivated. He loves his videos as well. Loves a hype up video. We literally do one every week, so it's we're always quite excited. It gets the boys going, trying to see what's coming up next. And mate, it's very good for the environment. So Ronan's been pretty good.
Oh, it's good to hear. Okay, next one. What did it mean for you to become a Samoan chief?
Yeah, that was a big milestone for me personally. It was more because at the time my granddad, he wasn't in the best health, and he had his chief title that he wanted to bestow upon some of the boys. So there were four of us actually, the sons of his four eldest, and yeah, it meant a lot. Now obviously now I can vote in Samoan politics and whatnot. I haven't been able to do that, obviously not being over there, but yeah, it just gives me a little bit more standing as well, just to help out with my family, and I think that's something that's always been there. Another reason why I always sort of thought ahead as to how I'm going to be looking after my family and loved ones once this game's finished with me.
So what is the role of a chief?
Well, at the moment, to be honest, it's just every now and then you might have to give some money to the village if there's a falabilave, like a death or it literally means bother in Samoan, like a bother.
Yeah.
So it's a wedding or a funeral, basically any time that you got to come together and put some money in. and it doesn't happen very often. My grandma normally gives me a yell if I need to help out. And if there's some decisions pertaining to the family, we have a little bit of a say. But if anything, grandma and my mums and all that get the say anyway. But we get to speak at least, but they don't listen every time.
Have you been back to Samoa since you've become a chief?
Yeah, I went back. We had a reunion in 2018, and just literally it was just a quick hello to the village where I'm a chief, and then it was just to the reunion from there. And yeah, Amber and I talk quite often about how centering it was to go back, and the kids loved it because you're just so free, like everything's so cheap, and yeah, life is pretty relaxed over there. But obviously, not many entrepreneurial things able to really launch over there. So
Online, mate. Online.
nah, yeah. So yeah, we loved it back there, and we've even talked about having a place there one day. So we'll see.
True. Hey, so many options. Okay, next one. Victor Vito would be the captain of my all-time Scucks 15. Who else would he have in his side?
Captain, oh shit. 15 Scucks guys. Oh man, I don't know. I'm lucky to be there. I'll just go Sonny Bill. Obviously, he's everyone loves that guy. Um, yeah, I know there's too many Scucks guys. Jimmy Ma, you got to be up there, mate. Nelson's finest, mate.
At least Scucks.
I mean, Silver Surfers 15 or Scucks 15? Oh shit. No, mate, I can't name the No, thanks. That's a great compliment. I don't know. That's Scucks 15. I'm lucky to be there.
Okay, next one. What's the secret to being so shredded?
Oh, you'll be able to tell us, Jimmy. Intermittent fasting, mate.
Do you still do it?
Oh, nowhere near as much as I should, man. Like, yeah, I've just been, yeah. I think because we have breakfast provided for us here by the club, and when I first got here, literally I was still intermittent fasting, didn't eat in the mornings until like 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And then, like you actually got fined if you didn't come to breakfast. And so, the boys find you. It's just a thing. The Frenchies, they love a little. They love pranks. They love doing fines. You'd love it here, bro. You'd absolutely love it here. And so yeah, so I just got over sitting down and just drinking coffee. I just started eating, and since then I've just do it. Like literally, when I start seeing a little bit of hinu going around the gut, I just like, oh yeah, I probably need to tighten the ship up for a couple of weeks. But I've been there, so yeah, intermittent fasting, I definitely swear by it.
So did you do that throughout your Hurricanes and All Black career?
Yeah, I did that pretty much every day throughout my whole career. Would avoid breakfast. Sometimes if I felt like it was going to be a big day, I'd have a little bit, but generally I'd be intermittent fasting most of the time.
And there's all sorts of kill the gene videos of you on YouTube. What was that? What was that?
That was me and Arden, me and my best mate Artie. We were just trying to release a book, and we thought we'd do it on intermittent fasting about killing the gene, killing the fat gene. We called it, just a bit of a marketing ploy there. And just because I was a bit tubby, obviously, and even in high school, and then literally did sevens intermittent fasting, and yeah, managed to get a decent rig, I guess. And then yeah, he decided to make a book around it, and we did some videos, bro. It was crack up, like me working out, pointing at the camera, like pouring water on my. Oh, mate, it's so cringe to think back to now, but yeah, love a little bit of acting. Love a bit of acting. You know that, freaking doing your videos for Hammers, for Hammer when you was away. One of the greats.
Oh, would you seriously get into acting? I remember like Shortland Street was always a semi-goal for you at some point. Would you like to do that?
I'll talk it down now, but secretly I'll be very, very happy if I was able to do an acting career after this. Mate, yeah. I would love to give it a go. Why not?
Follow
Who knows,
bro?
Once the kids are settled, we'll see what happens, and I might have to fly off to Hollywood now.
Because you're good mates with The Rock too, aren't you? And people compare him to you?
No, shit, no. No, I'm one of my best mates is his cousin, so I was able to give him a jersey one time, but literally I'm not good mates with The Rock. Don't go that far, Jimmy. You're good though. You're good.
Would you message him for an acting career, even if it was like who are the guys in
just
the back?
Just the cousin that brought him a plate of breakfast or something. Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
No, I would not have the balls to message him at all. But acting would be pretty cool. Like, I'm already acting already. Like, friggin' playing rugby. You don't go around town trying to tackle people in town. So, just a different role. Yeah.
Playing a different character. Who would play you in a movie?
Uh, I have this argument with Tawed all the time because he says we are like there's bad boys. Obviously, there's Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, and he says I'm Martin Lawrence, but I'd have to say Will Smith. I would love Will Smith to play me.
Who played you in the Kick, the Beaver movie? Do you know?
I think there was a guy bringing in the waters that never made the screen. That would probably be me, bro. I did not think I was even there. Should have called me. I would have
Oh,
been king.
yeah. Play yourself. Okay, last one, last question. Best piece of advice Victor Vito has for our listeners.
Just whatever it is you're going to do, back yourself. No point half-assing it. I think definitely learned that obviously throughout my career and obviously through the chat we've had. If you're going to do something, just back yourself and no reservations.
Oh, I knew it. It was a classic. Victor Vito's
Oh, I just came
advice.
from the Congo, bro.
Mate, I could see you just hit a zone and you went for it. Oh, poetry in motion. You've got a gift. That's something you could definitely follow. Advice,
Yeah,
mentoring, something like that.
yeah, something like that.
Anyway, mate, obviously, unreal yarn. Really appreciate you giving up your time and coming on the podcast. It's been awesome following your journey. Obviously, our wives are best friends, and mate, I was lucky enough to live with you guys for a year there and see how it all rolled. And you took me under your wing, and mate, been awesome following your journey since then, and seeing you progress through the All Blacks, win the double World Cups, and become a French legend. It's been pretty special to watch, and what I'm most looking forward to seeing is what you do after rugby, because I know whatever you do, you're gonna kill it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that, and really appreciate you coming on the podcast and giving up your time, mate.
No, thanks, Jim. It's I'm always pretty nervous with these sorts of things with podcasts. I don't really do them, but mate, I was always going to be able to. I was always going to be happy to try to do them with what a lad. It's awesome seeing how well you're doing and giving a platform to the lads to share some of their thoughts in that. So, man, I really appreciate you as well, and really appreciate you wanting to have a chat.
You're one of the greats. Appreciate it, brother.
Cheers, bro.